Hi there. Welcome to the Williamson Watchers Special Election Podcast. We are so pleased to bring you interviews with the current candidates in the Tennessee 7 Congressional Republican primary. Here were the rules. We asked the same set of questions to each candidate. We estimated each podcast would take about 15 minutes, but we allotted a half an hour block for each. We have held the release of the podcast until all the candidates wishing to participate were able to participate, therefore not giving an advantage to any one candidate. We invited all 11 candidates. We're happy to showcase here 7 candidates who are in the Tennessee Republican primary. The candidates joining us are Jody Barrett, Gino Bolso, Adolph Dagan, Mason Foley, Joe Lures, Stuart Parks, and Trace Whittam. Stuart Cooper was unable to record due to scheduling conflicts. We did not receive a response from candidates Jason Knight, Lee Reeves, and Matt Van Epps. We hope you are able to watch or listen to all the candidates. You will certainly get to know the candidates better, become better informed on some of the issues, and perhaps be surprised by a candidate or two. Remember, we are not journalists. We are the Republican Party of Williamson County. Our goal was to have all of our Republican candidates do well and give them an opportunity to speak to you directly on their platform and ideas. They did not disappoint. As a follow-up, we are holding a debate on September 15th, 2025 at the Church of the Nazarene in Franklin at 7 p.m. We hope that you can attend and see for yourself the quality of candidates Tennessee 7 can produce. This debate will be moderated by Fox News and 99.7 WWTN commentator Brian Wilson. You can send us questions for the candidates at tennessee7@williamsongop.org. Now on to the Williamson Watchers. Welcome to the Williamson Watcher Podcast. I'm Peg Raciti, Williamson County Republican Party. Alongside me is my cohort, Leanne Cates. Hi, Leanne. And today we welcome candidate Tennessee Rep. Jody Barrett, who represents District 69 in the Tennessee House of Representatives. Now he is running for the Tennessee 07 House seat vacated by Mark Green. Welcome, Rep. Barrett.
Thank you for having me, ladies. It's good to be with you.
Glad to have you.
So nice to have you here. So I'm just going to start with a very general question. Can you please tell us about yourself and for everybody who's watching?
Sure. So just the basic background information. I'm currently state representative for the 69th House District. I represent a large majority of Dickson County, all of Hickman County, and all of Lewis County. So Centerville, Hohenwald, Dixon, Van Leer, all of that area over here west of Nashville. I'm a lawyer here in Dixon where I was born and raised. Born in Hickman County, grew up in Dixon County, educated here, graduated high school here in 92. Left to go away to college and law school. Met my wife in college. We got married while I was in law school at Ole Miss. And moved back here in 2001 when we were expecting our first child, and have been here now for 25 years and raised family and a career, and now for some strange reason we've gotten involved in politics. So here we are.
So that's a amazing slingshot right back home, right? I mean,
That's right.
It's very common story. So you mentioned like now you decided to get into politics. So what compelled you to run for Tennessee 7? You're already in politics, and now that would require, a big change for you and your family.
Sure.
So what compelled you to run for Tennessee 7?
Well, I think like a lot of folks that get involved, moving back here 25 years ago with a new baby and a young family and starting a career, you spend all of your energy and effort really trying to focus on that, trying to provide for your family, build a career, build your reputation in the community, all of those things, which requires you to kind of keep your head down and working hard. And, eventually you get to the point where things have leveled off and you've done a good job, and, you can sit back and take a breath and look around what's going on in your community. And what I found was that, particularly around the time that we were all going through COVID, like a lot of folks, it gave me pause to look around and see what was happening, and realizing, things are not going so well in some areas, and somebody needs to do something about this. And what we all, I think, find is that when we say that those magic words, God just kind of chuckles, because, when we say somebody needs to do something about this, we usually mean somebody else. And God laughs and says, "No, knucklehead, I mean you. You need to do something about this." And so that's what happened in 22, when 22 and 23, when I decided to run for the state legislature. There was some stuff going on in school libraries with the pornography in schools, and my good friend John Rich was all fired up about that and involved. And the gentleman that held this seat before me was a chair of the subcommittee that he originally voted against that bill, and that got John fired up and wanting to get somebody to primary that fella and get somebody in here that would be conservative, that he could consistently rely on. And unfortunately, 15 days before the filing deadline, he decided not to run. And so that opened up the seat in the State House. And so we decided just at the last minute, hey, there's one guy in this race, and I can't imagine letting him run unopposed. We've got to make sure that we have somebody good out there for the voters to have an option at least. And so jumped in then, unwillingly, but we did so, and ended up winning a 4-way primary. And I think this current situation is very similar. I think nobody really expected a congressman to resign in the middle of his term. It rarely happens. Certainly, I had no aspirations for going to D.C. or moving up any type of ladder, but when I think the rumor mill started stirring up that there was a possibility that Congressman Green was going to resign, there were some people that were reaching out to me going, "Hey, we think this is going to happen. And we've watched you work in the state legislature. We know that you're a man of principle and that you're conservative, and we can rely on you, and we would like you to run for this seat." And my initial response was, "You're crazy, and no thank you." Somebody else needs to handle that. Just like I said before, I've got other things going on here, and going to D.C. is not my idea of a good time. And so sure enough, I said, "Look, we don't even know if he's going to resign or not." But 3 weeks later, sure enough, he did. And they started calling again at that point. And so my wife and I we spent a lot of time praying on it, thinking about it, talking about whether or not it was good for our family. And what I think a lot of us do as well, whenever there's a big decision like that's coming up in our lives, those of us that are people of faith, we'll pray to God going, "Hey, give me a sign here, put somebody in my way or an obstacle in my way that tells me for sure that this is a bad idea and this is something that I shouldn't be doing." And all the feedback was just opposite. Everybody that I talked to was very positive and encouraging, and telling me that it was really a no-lose situation, that I really needed to get involved in the race and do it. So that, and then just looking back at my experience over the last 3 years and getting how I got into the State House, and then all the stuff that's happened while I've been up there, it just seemed like God had been preparing me for this moment and for this opportunity. And so I'm trying my best to be obedient to that call.
Very good. Well, I know that the word conservative gets thrown around a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think a lot of people have a variety of definitions of what a conservative is, or what you would think if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, that it's a duck. But that isn't necessarily the case in politics. So for our listeners out there, how do you define conservative?
Well, for me personally, it's somebody who puts the Constitution and their faith first and foremost in every decision that they make. It's not so much about party politics and being, a team player, because as I've found that sometimes you have to go against your party if that's what your constituents want you to do. So what we as Tennesseans traditionally have wanted all along is for just something as simple as having a representative that simply reflects our opinion and our voice. I think far too often folks think that when they get elected, the people back home just wanted them to go up there and figure it out and do whatever they think is best, and that's just not the way it is. And so if you want to be a real conservative, then you've got to listen to your voters and reflect their opinion. What I tell people is my job is to say what you would say and do what you would do if you were sitting in the chair, and vote the way that you would vote. When I say that, talking about the majority of the people in my district. And so I feel like I've done a good job of that in the 69th House District, and I think I can do the same for the Tennessee 7th.
Okay, that's a good answer. You are probably aware of some of the issues that our party has experienced with crossover voting in the state. And you're about to be in a Republican primary election, and we currently have open primaries. So do you think that Tennessee should have open primaries or closed primaries, and why?
No, they absolutely should be closed. I mean, we just watched the Catholic Church choose a new pope. The Protestants and the Jews didn't get to vote on that. The Catholics had a closed system where they got to choose who their new leader was going to be. And it doesn't make any sense for us to have closed or open primaries for anybody and their brother to make decisions and influence decision for us as a party as to who's going to be our nominee and run in the next election. And this suggestion that there's some sort of disenfranchisement that will come if we close our primaries is just ludicrous. Everybody gets to vote in the general, but the parties are private entities that have the opportunity to make their own rules and bylaws and choose how they select who their nominees are going to be. And the state should have no role whatsoever in passing laws that are requiring these private entities how they're going to make those choices. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. So have you spent time in DC, and how are you going to protect yourself from the swamp? Because, you were talking about the voters and being a conservative and
Right.
Constitution, and then it seems like everybody goes into it, and then somehow the swamp gets them. So just wondering
Yeah,
your thoughts
you
about
have
that.
to be on guard at all times. If you're talking about personal entanglements and things like that. When I first got elected to the state house, one of the members of the leadership for our house caucus pulled me aside at a caucus meeting and said, "Hey, Jody, here's what you need to do. As a freshman, you need to rent an apartment in Nashville and stay up there during the week and go to all of these receptions and really be sociable and interactive with everybody. That's going to make you more successful at this job." And when he got done with his pitch, I just kind of looked at him and said, "Well, respectfully, I appreciate the suggestion, but I'm not going to do that." And he didn't really know how to take it. But I told him, I said, "Look, first of all, I don't drink, so that's not a temptation for me, which means I can go to these receptions and stay out if I need to till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, something along those lines. But I live 45 minutes away. And so when I'm done, I'm going to drive home every night, and I'm going to sleep in my bed next to my wife so that she knows where I am, and you guys can't make up stories as to where I'm not." It's a little bit more difficult doing that in DC, being a plane ride away. But there are ways of doing that and protecting yourself. The first step will be finding a housing situation that is suitable for that. I think where some of these guys go wrong is going off and getting their own housing on their own, which with no accountability partners or roommates or anything along those lines to kind of help you cover for yourself and take care of yourself. So I think I'll be looking at maybe some arrangements with. There's some Freedom Caucus members I know that do this. There's some other faith-based or faith leaders in the House Caucus that would have shared housing, that sort of thing. It's been offered to me already, so I'll explore that more as we get closer. If I'm fortunate enough to win the primary, we'll start getting serious about finding a place to stay. But when you do those things, you take care of where you're going to be. You fly back and forth. You don't stay up there on the weekends and do silly stuff. Just remember it's a job. It's not a lifestyle. I'm up there to serve, not to change the way I live or who I am or anything like that.
So you mentioned the Freedom Caucus. So my question to you is, are you willing as a member of Congress to join the Freedom Caucus?
Yeah, I think I will be. If they reach out and give me an invitation or extend an invitation, I certainly align with most of what they do. I like the fact that they do have some guidelines in their bylaws that allow for occasion for you to maybe not be locked down exactly with the caucus. That would be my only concern, is that my ultimate loyalty is going to be to the people that I represent and the people of Tennessee 7th. And as long as they understand that if there's a situation where the caucus is wanting me to do something that is in direct conflict with what my voters want me to do, I'm just not going to be able to do that. But I do think I would be an asset to the caucus. I think I'm somebody that ideologically aligns with 99.9% of what they believe and what they've worked toward, and getting them an extra vote is probably a good thing for them and for me.
Thank you.
Good. Well, I know there's like a whole laundry list of questions. You've been to a couple of different candidate forums that I've seen you at, and I think a lot of the same questions probably keep coming up, but I'm going to hit you with a couple. I'm just going to make it a two-part question.
Okay.
And just let you answer both of them. We talk about career politicians and how some politicians go in making one amount of money and they come out with a whole lot more money on the other end, and so
Right.
what's happening in between. So question number one is, do you support term limits? And on top of that, do you support banning members of Congress from trading stocks for any period of time while they're in office or even after they have left office?
Yes, on both accounts. The term limits, you get some of these guys that tell you, well, I think term limits happen every 2 years with an election. Well, that's not reality. What happens, we see the Nancy Pelosi's and others that go up there and they get entrenched and they have all of this PAC money and dark money that comes in, and it just makes it impossible for anybody to challenge them as an incumbent. And look, it's just like your sheets on your bed. They need to be changed every so often. And so I'm 100% in favor of term limits. I would be proud to vote for a bill that did something like that on the federal level. I did support Brian Ritchie's effort in the state level to try to bring some term limit legislation to Tennessee. And as far as the stock trading stuff, that's just common sense. I mean, when you are voting on legislation that is going to make big impacts on markets, whether it's the agricultural markets and commodities or the military industrial complex or things along those lines, and you know what's coming down the pike, you absolutely should not be able to benefit financially off of that. There are some people up there probably now, even still today, that should be in jail. There's just no question about it.
Okay, can't argue with that answer.
Is that a black and white answer for you? We're not riding any
Completely.
fences here.
So, what steps would you take, if any, to help codify President Trump's executive order on election integrity?
Oh, that's a great question. I've been running election integrity bills since I got elected to the State House, and this kind of circles back around to these attacks that I'm getting from Club for Growth and others saying that I'm anti-Trump, and I said mean things about him 16 years ago, so obviously I hate Trump. The funny thing is if you look at everything that I've done since I've been in office, it all lines up with Trump's agenda, particularly when it comes to election integrity issues. hand mark paper ballots, get rid of the machines, get rid of the voting centers, put us all back in voting precincts, all voting on the same day, only absentee voting or mail-in voting for extreme situations and for our military. It just all makes sense. And what I've tried to talk to our Secretary of State and others about at the state level is, look, perception is reality. And the perception right now is that our elections are not safe. And that's part of the reason why I think we're struggling year after year with turnout, is people just don't trust them. And so we need to make some wholesale changes that will bring that integrity back, bring back that trust in the system, that the results are accurate, that they can be audited to and clearly show that everything has been done on the up and up. And so as far as President Trump's executive order, everything that he's put out there that has been so phenomenal for the country in the first 7 months or 8 months of this term, we're in a race to beat the clock to get all of those things codified before his term is over. And I hope that the rest of the party understands that we don't have a whole lot of time and we got a whole lot of work to get done, and that's a big one. I have seen floated around out there some of the election integrity groups that have a election integrity Bill of Rights that has 10 items on it that all line up with President Trump's initiative. And I think that's a great start. Let's do one bill that creates this Bill of Rights with all 10 issues on it. A lot of the things I've just mentioned previously are listed there. And let's knock it out. It needs to get done. It needs to get done quickly.
Thank you. My final question is just going to switch just ever so slightly to international relations.
Okay.
Just a short shift. I'm going to ask you to speak on any topic, an international topic, whether it's Ukraine, the Middle East, or tariffs. If you could just speak to one of those and what you foresee your focus or perhaps your opinion and that how you might approach something. So it's a sort of open international topic.
Right. Well, look, I'll be the first to admit that being a small country dirt lawyer in Dixon, Tennessee does not make me a foreign policy expert. I know about as much as everybody else from what I've been watching in the news and reading in the newspapers. So I don't pretend to walk into this office as some sort of expert in that area. But I will say this, what we're watching, I think, with President Trump and how he's handling Ukraine and Russia and these negotiations, they're not dissimilar to a negotiation or a mediation that we handle in the law or in the courts. And usually what you have is two sides that absolutely despise each other, and they have an untenable relationship that they are unwilling at all to budge in either direction. And the key is we're either going to have to go all the way to a trial and have a judge make a decision for you, or the only way to negotiate and reach some sort of settlement usually is both sides are going to have to give a little something. And usually the best settlements are those where both parties walk away just a little bit ticked off. If you have a settlement where one guy is skipping down the sidewalk to his car and the other one's just kicking rocks, then you probably, it's probably not been a fair deal. So in this situation specifically that we're dealing with over the last couple of days or the last couple of weeks, I think President Trump is setting the table for getting these guys in the room at the table to go, all right, boys, enough's enough. You're messing up the world. All of us are tired of it, and we need to come to some sort of solution. And neither one of you are going to be happy when we're done, but we all need to move on now. And so I'm hopeful and optimistic that he's going to be able to get something done in that respect.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap us up with one last question.
Okay.
And it's kind of a think back over your years that you have been doing what you're doing now. And is there any one of your experiences that you feel set you up to be the best selection as a congressman in District 7?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the school voucher vote was the thing that sets me apart from a lot of the fellow members in my Congress or in my caucus, certainly from the other candidates in this race. Um, and I talked about this the other night in Williamson County at the West Haven event. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? And so all of these candidates are going to tell you that they're conservative and that they're pro-Trump and they're going to fight for you and do all these wonderful things in Congress. But then what happens when these powerful forces come against you and your constituents are telling you to do one thing, but the president or the speaker or your caucus or these big money PACs or whatever it is are threatening you or scaring you or running ads against you? How do you react to that? Well, we don't know how the other guys are going to do, but you know how I'm going to react, and that's what I did with the school voucher vote. My folks just adamantly opposed that bill out here in Dixon, Hickman, and Lewis County. They told me, and they made it very clear that they did not want me to support it, and they wanted me to actually work to try to kill it. And so I did that. I took the instructions from the people that hired me, and I went to work to try to represent them as best as I can, and I will do the same thing as your congressman, no matter who it is on the other side or what political ramifications it may have for me. If they beat me and push me out of office because they don't like the way I voted, that's just fine. I'll come back home and go to work, and I will be okay. My pathway to heaven will not be affected by that.
All right. Well, this has been a great time. Peg, did you have any other questions, or do you want to wrap us up?
Thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate your time.
Yeah, ladies, thank you so much for doing this. This is a great format, and I hope I didn't ramble on too long. Sometimes my wife tells me I talk too much.
No, we want everybody to get to know you. That's
Absolutely.
our final goal. Our goal is to educate. So just be who you are, right? You are.
Well, I can't be anybody else. Certainly can't be them as good as they are. So I'm the only one I can do perfectly.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
You got it turned off?